All right. My name is Jacqueline Kwok. I go by JK. I work with DCG, and I'd like the panelists to introduce themselves.
All right, I'm Doug Picanics from Livepeer. I think you heard from me a few minutes ago.
Hi, everybody. I'm Trevor Harris-Jones from Render Network.
Ben Gertzel from Singularity Net and the Superintelligence Alliance.
Bruce Pond, Ocean Protocol.
Can you guys also explain what your projects are?
In 5 words or less?
Distributed consumer compute network for rendering and AI or machine learning jobs.
Singularity Net is a platform for decentralized AI applications of all sorts and customized for artificial general intelligence.
Cool. Ocean was built as an orchestration layer and access control for data pipelines and artificial intelligence algorithms.
Amazing. So, as we all know, I think tokens are often used for bootstrapping a network used to align incentives. Could you explain how your token creates those effects for your project?
Sure. Yeah, briefly, Livepeer token is used to stake if you want to perform work on the network, and the fees that are earned through using the network get distributed to those who are performing work. And so as the amount of fees grow, presumably if you hold the token in stake, you'd earn more and more fees. And you're also incentivized to join the network because the token is distributed to those who join, who show up to do work sort of during the bootstrapping phase.
Great. At Render, we have a burn-mint equilibrium model. What's meant by that is as work is performed, tokens are burned, either purchased and burned or contributed. And that's completely separated from the emission side. The emissions are therefore able to go to more than just node operators. They're able to go to the community for incentives. So for us, we had a big switch this year when we moved to Solana. And a large part of that was really incented through community rewards. On top of that, we've got a very strong creator community using it, and we've been able to put aside creator rewards for creators. So for us, the key in the model is it's not linked in terms of input and output, but gives you leeway to allocate across different areas as the project scales and grows.
So Singularity Net, we started with the AGI token, later changed to AGIX, which is it's a governance token for the decentralized network of AI agents. It's a payment token used to pay for AI services on the network, and a large part of that is AIs paying other AIs for services in sort of networks of interdependent AI agents. That token is also used as an ingredient in a decentralized reputation system, which plays various functions in the network dynamics. And we've recently done a tokenomic merger of Singularity Net with 2 other decentralized AI protocols, Fetch.ai and Ocean Protocol. So now we're moving from AGIX to the ASI token for artificial superintelligence.
The way Ocean Token was originally designed was as a reward mechanism for a network, as participation in the products and services of Ocean, as well as a means of exchange. One of the things that we started out in, I think 2018, 2019, was this concept of token engineering with, I forget what the guy, and we did a lot of research. So we've been trying to find ways to use the tokens in a very kind of rational way, but also in a way that makes sense so that we conserve and also deploy tokens for the community, on behalf of the community, and all that sort of stuff. So what we recently did is we released kind of Ocean Node. It's a network. And within, I think, 6 to 8 weeks, we have 18,000 nodes. So every single one of them are rewarded. We haven't talked a lot about it, but it's a huge success. And then we reward people for providing algorithms for trading. And these algorithms have rapidly gone from a toss of a coin to some of them are 65% accurate. So you can go on our predictor system. And when you buy one of the algorithms, some of that money goes to the actual algorithm maker, but they also get rewards for that. So We have other things like prizes and all that sort of stuff, but also access control when you use Ocean smart contracts. So I think to kind of answer your question, there's a bunch of ways that you can use tokens as a currency, as a means of exchange, as an incentive model to activate a community and bootstrap, and that's what we're trying to find the right way to do it so that when the tokens are issued, it's done very, very efficiently.
You just quickly threw in a token merger of some sort. I was just curious
Yeah.
what that meant and how that's
Well,
been.
this has been an interesting operation. Yeah, so we had 3 separate projects: Singularity Net, Ocean, and then Fetch.ai, and we all are doing decentralized AI networks in some sense, each with different aspects. We each had separate utility tokens: AGIX, FET, and Ocean, and what we have done is to merge the 3 tokens into one, without, however, merging the organizations into one. So we have 3 separate organizations, which are now all using the same token for their payment, incentivization, and other purposes.
So for all of them using the same token.
Yep.
So that's a number of different use cases.
Yeah, I mean, each of our projects has a number of use cases already, and now they're put together. And we're currently in the process of admitting a 4th product, Kudos, which is a decentralized infrastructure project, into the alliance. Also, that's still pending a couple community votes, but it looks promising. So the conceptual idea is to expand the number of organizations merged into the Superintelligence Alliance to sort of make an overall decentralized AI tech stack of different projects that interoperate and have a shared token. And the value of the shared token largely is you're providing a strong incentive for the projects to interoperate together. I mean, we've been partnered with Ocean since time immemorial, right? So 2018, there's 20, yeah. But honestly, although we're good friends and have been partnered together, there hasn't been as much software collaboration as we had intended from the get-go. And I think having the shared incentivization of a common token can certainly help with that, yet without forcing it where it doesn't make sense.
So maybe a question for Bruce and Ben. Through your years of working in crypto, seeing many different types of examples of how tokens are used, what are some examples that worked and what are some that don't? But I do want everybody to answer, but starting with the 2 of you.
It's kind of like a cart before the horse. In many ways, let's be honest, the reason why we're looking at utility tokens is because there's a certain concept of an investment token that everybody wants to stay as far away from as possible. That's the reality. However, the good aspect of that is force token projects to really look at their token, understand the token engineering, and say, where is this token going to be used where it's non-speculative as a core value proposition? And the answer is there's many ways. Staking, means of exchange, to incentivize community and participation, to reward people who are doing real value on the network in an effort to get a real product market fit that is not just for show.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the biggest successes of token models have been in DeFi, which everybody knows about. And one area where I felt working with liquid tokens was highly counterproductive was dealing with reputation systems. And to deal with tokens to connote your reputation, it seemed like using cryptographic tokens makes sense and having decentralized consensus makes sense, but you want tokens that are not tradable or fungible, right? Because I mean, you don't want to buy and sell reputation. Your reputation should accumulate and should not be transferable to others, except in very specific channels, right? So that's the case where, in a way, you want to tokenize, but not in the way that the crypto economy tends to militate toward. I'd say outside of DeFi, the uses we would like to see for token economics have not yet proven themselves, right? I mean, there's a notion you want to compensate people with tokens for contributing data, which is then used to train AI models, and then when that AI model is used for something, it propagates back to rewards to the contributors of the data. And it doesn't have to be data. It could be processing power. It can be expertise. And we have built a number of systems of that nature aimed at medicine, music, at other vertical areas. We have gotten non-zero traction for these things, but I would say in no case have we gotten dramatic traction that like proves that this actually is an awesome way to do things. I'm hopeful that will happen, and I think that the logic of it makes sense. There's network effects that you need to seed, but I think it's fair to say we haven't yet seen the power of this yet. Another area where I think tokens have been deeply problematic is governance, because we're just often confused between cases where buying votes makes sense and cases where it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, of course, in a company, shareholders vote, and whoever has more shares gets more vote, and that's fair enough. That's just what it is. In a country or a nonprofit organization, it's considered bad to buy votes. I mean, it happens more in some countries than others, but it's usually not what's supposed to happen, right? And in crypto networks, you're often poised awkwardly between those two extremes, right? And we've been thinking about this deeply and trying to build a sort of decentralized network of people interested in, beneficial decentralized AGI. It's like, do you want that to be $1 one vote? Do you want it to be one person or one identity, one vote? Actually, what do you want? So I mean, here, tokenomics, blockchain gives you powerful tools to use for decentralized governance, but it's not clear anyone has really gotten it right yet, because most DAOs are just controlled by like two founders who own most of the tokens, right? So then what use really is the decentralized voting, right? It's a legal cover. So that's, again, it's an interesting area though, and I'm hoping we figure out how to make it work, right? I mean, I don't think it's hopeless. I'm just saying it's not there yet.
I so much struggle with that. For me, the whole concept of governance being distributed is just so challenging with tokens. You've got people who hold tokens off-chain or in cold wallets that don't let them vote. And so you've got a smaller ecosystem than you would like being able to participate in the governance of your projects. And
but to be fair, democracy works very erratically, even if you set tokens aside in the regular world, right? So.
It's one of my biggest challenges as I look at it is you don't really have the whole community voting. You have a much smaller percentage voting at any point. I would love there to be a better model of doing it than there is.
So in our vote on the merger with Ocean and Fetch, we had quite high percent of AGIX tokens vote. Actually.
High as in
over
10%?
No, over 50%.
That's
we had
phenomenal.
a shitload of tokens voting because it was a really big deal, right? But on the other hand, when we've done other votes on smaller things, it was like 80 wallets voting or something. But we did see that when you're doing something big that was viewed as like of existential import for the project, you actually did get the voters out, which was interesting.
From the stats I've seen, I don't think you get more than 10% on most.
I think that honestly, this vote on the ASI merger may have been, by some measures, the most successful decentralized democracy initiative. In that you got a whole lot of token holders to vote anyway. Right?
Can I use this opportunity to ask Doug a question? I've always wondered this. I'm going to share you a story I've never told anybody. For our Ocean token launch, we had to generate 50,000 addresses. We got 20,000 of them filled by different people who wanted Ocean token. A month later, every single one of those addresses were filled with like 2.5 Livepeer tokens. And I was asking my team, where the hell did all these tokens come from? Did we do something? And so by generating 50,000 addresses, 20,000 of them got filled by an airdrop by Livepeer. And I've always just been admiration, and I've always wondered, how did that turn out? Because you sent that to a ton of addresses. I don't know, 100,000, 200,000 addresses. We got a lot of them.
2.6 million addresses.
Yeah, and when you're talking about governance and powering AI and the journey Livepeer has been on, where it was just airdropped to 2 million addresses. And now Livepeer is one of the top projects in the world where it has very high name recognition, and it seems like it's on a very good path. So I was always wondering about this, and now you know the story that we got like 20,000 addresses from them. So thank you very much, by the way.
This is a good question. There's a lot of history. How are we going to distribute the Livepeer token? Initially, it was going to be airdropped progressively to 10 different classes of contributors or through rounds, and it felt really subjective, and lawyers were like, you can't choose who gets the token and who doesn't, and we're like, we need a permissionless way. Can you actually sell the token? No, of course you can't sell the token. Can you mine the token? So we created this algorithm. It came to me in the middle of the night when I woke up at like 3 a.m. called the Merkle mine, where this airdrop to 2.6 million addresses was accomplished via about 40 lines of smart contract code and one Merkle hash on chain that encoded the Merkle root of a tree that had every Ethereum address with at least, I forget what it was, 0.1 ETH at some point was in this Merkle tree. And the algorithm was anyone could show up and claim their own initial Livepeer token, and they could also claim for any eligible address in that 2.5 million addresses. And if they claimed on someone else's behalf and submitted their proof, then they would get a little portion of that person's token. And that portion sort of grew over time to create more of an incentive. And so you actually had maybe, let's call it 1,000 active miners showing up to mine the tokens for 2.5 million people. We didn't do an airdrop. They mined and they distributed the token on our behalf. And we ended up with the most widely distributed initial Genesis set of tokens in crypto. Is the first time Ethereum price ever went over 1 GWay because people were like competing to mine gas. But that was only the Genesis state, and most of those addresses didn't pay attention or didn't care or still don't. But the 40% that did, not by addresses but by miners who aggregated this, actually started staking on the network, participating on the network, running nodes, et cetera, and became the core community. And the token distribution's actually been ongoing for 7 years through inflation, only to these users, not to the ones just sitting with two Livepeer token.
Doug, was this all Ethereum? So gas fees on every one of those 2 tokens?
Yeah, it was on Ethereum back in 2017. People got really angry because the gas price went from 1 GWay to like 5 GWay to even 20 for a couple of days. They're like, wait, how am I gonna play this pyramid scheme game if gas prices are over 1 GWay? Because that was the only thing happening at the time. It could never fly now, probably, but
it's a big driver for the Arbitrum move.
Yeah. Eventually, Arbitrum came along. But this is to go back to JK's question: what works, what doesn't work? I would say this is sort of a cop-out.
Pyramid schemes work.
Things that are directly encoded as incentives on chain that people can play in a sort of game theory type game work very, very well. We've shown that proved out to bootstrap the supply side, the Livepeer network, to generate the token, et cetera. People respond to that in the crypto world. The things that we hoped would work or believe would work, like maybe, people believe in this network, they'll hold the token, they'll build a business on top of it. That's been harder. Right? Let's get token in the hands of developers. They'll make contributions to the core protocol. Maybe if they're already running a node, responding to the incentives, they will. But that one's been harder. So I think a core lesson is the more you can encode in a permissionless on-chain game to motivate the types of behaviors you want, the more powerful the token will be.
Yeah, totally makes sense. One of the insights that I don't know if it's an insight, but a learning is that exactly that. Whatever you can encode on chain to coordinate people, but you kind of need a core team to provide a certain inspiration. We did something in the middle. We had this thing called Ocean DAO. We funded over 250 teams, gave on average 10,000 to 50,000 per team, some even more, $250,000. And of that, we had about 5 teams survive. So 5 out of 250 to continue to build even to this day. But it was a good experience, but it was capital inefficient because to get developers to use tokens, to incentivize developers does not work well.
So kind of on that note, it's kind of like the decentralized versus centralized debate. How do you guys make the decision around what to decentralize, what to centralize. How can a decentralized approach hurt or benefit a tech stack?
Trevor, you have like one of the centralized to decentralized stories.
Right, right. Well, for us, it started with a very centralized approach. We were just looking to scale up rendering, and we went to the hyperscalers, and tried very hard to get enough compute there. But the big challenge then was the pricing model that NVIDIA had meant an enterprise card was about 10 times the cost of a consumer card, and it wasn't 10 times as performant. So we just didn't have enough cards in the hyperscalers. And when we were trying to do a project for, I think, Madison Square Gardens, we realized it would take all of Amazon's West Coast compute more than the 3 months we had. So it was really an aha moment on this has to give in a different way. And for us, the fact that there were multiples, more consumer devices out there really showed us the right path to it. I would say the other lucky part is most of what we do is rendering. It involves animations and scenes, and typically those are in frames. And frames can be easily split between nodes. So a lot of the challenges you guys have on the AI front really just weren't when we started there, because you could send individual frames to individual nodes and get them done in parallel in a deterministic way. So it really opened up for us the pathway towards decentralization that we're now on today. And it's become so much more than that, with on-chain provenance and more really being a key as we look to the future, and tokenized data and creation being so important and driving a lot of how we think and what we do.
Yeah, it's been instructive as an AI developer, an AI algorithm designer, to understand which AI algorithms and approaches work well on a decentralized infrastructure and which ones don't. And I mean, now large language models are being interestingly successful. I don't think they're actually going to be the most interesting out there in 2 or 3 years, but they're super successful now. And training LLMs at the moment decentralizes poorly. And we've had some talks on that here. There's a lot of great work in that direction. But at this moment, if you want to train an LLM, by far the most effective route is like build a supercomputer, right? And I mean, with Singularity Net and Fetch, we are building supercomputers. Even though we're into decentralized AI, I mean, the supercomputers will be part of our decentralized network, but it's just the most practical way to train those particular sorts of things. Now, when I look at what we're doing to try to build AGI, you're taking neural nets, you're combining them with, say, logical reasoning algorithms, evolutionary learning, different kinds of AI. Now, it's interesting, these other sorts of AI, which are largely neglected by big tech companies, decentralize very nicely. Like an evolutionary algorithm or a logic engine decentralize super well. So you start to think, well, why do these big tech companies that have huge amounts of data and huge supercomputers, why have they directed the whole AI field toward developing algorithms that need huge amounts of data and need huge supercomputers, right? So on the one hand, you don't have to posit anything nefarious. They're just trying to use the particular resources they have. On the other hand, they've managed to direct the whole field of AI to a class of algorithms at which they have the unique ability to train and deploy them effectively, right? So, which means if you want to bypass that, then you need to develop different sorts of AI algorithms that can be trained and taught more naturally on decentralized infrastructure. But on the other hand, what they're doing now with their infrastructure is really, really awesome, right? So then you're playing catch up in a certain sense, which is an interesting position to be in. And I think we can win, but if we win, the reason will be that it's actually smarter to combine these different AI algorithms together rather than just training LLMs, right? So then if you actually make a smarter AI system that happens to be running on a decentralized infrastructure, I mean, then that could sort of overcome the advantage big tech has. But it is quite clever the way they've achieved this advantage and captured the whole research field in the process.
And your whole thing is safe AGI, good AGI. How is that going to play out in the next 5 to 10 years, you
Well,
think?
the safe, no one knows that, but I mean,
I did my research.
the safe and good aspect, of course, is not a certainty, and there's some irreducible uncertainty in creating machines smarter than we are, right? We can't know exactly what will happen. On the other hand, most people in this community probably concur with my intuition that if the first human-level thinking machine is controlled by a decentralized, diverse participatory network, that's probably on the whole going to come out better than if the first human-level thinking machine is controlled by a single centralized company or a single military or something. So we can't really prove that. And of course, the best possible centralized entity could do great, right? But those tend not to be who gets the most power in the real world. So if you believe that decentralized participatory networks are, on the whole, going to more likely lead to a beneficial and ethical outcome, right? Then that would mean that making sure the first true AGIs that are built are running on decentralized networks is very important. And then the ethical aspect sort of coincides with the AI algorithmics aspect, because you think if large language models or anything like that is the key to AGI, we're pretty much fucked, right? Because, I mean, the big tech companies and the Chinese government allied with their big tech companies, like they're very far, they're going to be ahead of others for a variety of reasons. If some other sort of algorithm, like, for example, the ones I'm working on, or something else that is decentralization friendly, turns out to be a better path to AGI, then there's the potential that AGI is rolled out first at the human level on the decentralized network, which, again, to many people out there, many regulators, but also many of the lions of the AI field, like Geoffrey Hinton or Yoshua Bengio, let's say, this sounds terrible to them. What they think the safest thing to do is have a small set of experts working for a few centralized entities sanctioned by the government develop all the AGI. And I think these guys sincerely believe this is the safest, most ethical way to do things. It's not that they want, or not only that they want to achieve money or power from it, right? So it's a genuine difference of philosophy and opinion about something we can't know for sure about, yet it's a huge decision we have to make now. So you've got to do something, right?
Man, I'm skeptical of that outcome. I see the big models winning, or at least getting there first, and there probably are two outcomes.
It all depends if you think you can get to AGI with LLMs or not. I think you cannot. If you think you can, then yeah. Then big tech won.
It's not just the LLMs; it's also just the power and the training sort of impetus they have there. But they don't need to be mutually exclusive. You can have both. I do love how things have started in centralized and have become open source models, and then have seen a path towards better usage and monetization outside of those. And I'd hope that actually happens as these evolve.
And it's complex because, I mean, Facebook, while a big tech company whose ethics has been highly questionable, has open sourced a whole bunch of large models. They've not open sourced the data or the configuration file for training those models, but they are nevertheless, in a way, they're cooperating with the open source world, and you can then deploy llama models and such on your decentralized network. So it's not quite an us versus them thing. It is much more nuanced. Right?
Any last remarks on the future of AI, decentralized AI?
If I could say just one thing, I think that we may not win decentralized AI, decentralized in general. However, what's critical is that we have an off-ramp in case the centralized powers abuse their power and censor free speech, free transaction, free knowledge. And if that happens, if they abuse their powers, we're here.
Unless they've blocked us. Yeah. So I will make. I've made many predictions in the past. Some correct and some incorrect, certainly. But I would note Ray Kurzweil, a good friend of mine who now works for Google, he predicted we would get to human level AGI in 2029. No, he then thought it would be another 16 years after that till we get to massively superhuman AI, which I don't think makes sense, because I think once you get human level AI, that AI can pretty rapidly self-improve and self-improve and self-improve. You'll have ASI not too long after. But if I align that with the progress I see in my own AGI projects, like the OpenCog Hyperon, which we're building for compatibility with the ASI network, it seems plausible we can be 2 to 4 years off from getting something like a human-level AGI, putting LLMs, reasoning, and evolution together in a decentralized network. So I mean, we could be overlooking some huge thing, and you need a quantum gravity supercomputer to get there. But Kurzweil's timelines are looking plausible. So it's kind of, and I feel like push is coming to shove in the next few years, which is quite interesting. And if you play around with OpenAI's new model, like GPT-4o1, like this thing is astounding, right? This can generate meaningful code. This can prove math theorems. Now it can't write code in our new AGI language, because there's not enough training examples for it, right? So it's not perfect,
But it'll get there soon.
I don't know that it will, but what we're doing, we're putting it in a loop with a formal verifier and a theorem prover, and by looping it together with these other tools, you may get there, even if the LLM on its own won't get there, right? So we're definitely in an era of rapid progress, and if there ever was a time to really push forward with decentralization in the AI field, like, we got to do it now, or the chance is going to be gone.
Well, on that note, we're over time. So thank you, everybody, for being on this panel. I'm going to pass it off to Doug to close it up.
Thanks, JK. Thanks, everyone, for joining the panel. I was just going to do 2 things to end out the session. One is to show the winners of the generative AI contest that we had. Do we have the clicker anywhere? Yes. And if the panelists want to run, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Yeah, panelists are welcome to run. This will just be a minute or two to wrap it up. Yeah, thanks.